How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? It is Noah Dauber back with another NHL offseason video with the review and preview brand. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about a very recent and pretty big contract that was given to a former Tampa Bay Lightning player, Ondrej Palat, signing a 5-year, $30 million contract with a $6 million average annual value with the New Jersey Devils. So I'm going to discuss both sides of this move, first from the Lightning and then the Devils, like I usually do with these free agent signings. So first, like I said, we're going to get into the Tampa Bay Lightning's cap situation, and they've been in cap struggles. I won't say cap hell because they managed it really well. I mean, winning 2 Stanley Cups, going to 3 straight Stanley Cup Finals, but it's getting even tougher for them. Projected cap space -7 million in the hole with some of the contracts that they have, and if we look at it, I mean, plain and simply, they just cannot afford to bring back Ondrej Palat. They have too many big contracts. You see Kucherov and Point making $9.5 million each for 5 years for Kucherov, even longer for Point. Stamkos is still making 8.5, and really problematic contract for them is Alex Killorn, my buddy Garth Michael Patrick, massive Tampa Bay Lightning fan, goes to a ton of games, and he's going to be my co-host on our future hockey podcast as well. He really wanted them to trade Killorn, making $4.45 million this year before he's a UFA next season. They have not done that, at least not yet. Nick Paul, they did just recently re-sign to a long-term contract extension, very manageable cap hit. But on the defensive side as well, Hedman is still making almost 8 million. Sergachev just recently got a contract extension. I will be talking about Sergachev in another video, but he's making 4.8 million this year, and that will increase to 8.5 next year. Chernak, same thing. He's going to 2.3 roughly $1 million increase for next season. Ian Cole, they just recently signed to a $3 million contract for 1 year. So they do have some big contracts coming up. Stamkos in 2 years. Nemestikov is another guy they just re-signed $2.5 million for this year. But Ross Colton, he's a young guy that needs to step up when a guy like Ondrej Palat is gone. Alex Barry-Boulet is another guy that Garth really wants them to keep an eye on. So, look, the thing with Tampa Bay is they've lost free agents in the past, the past few years, and they've just plugged guys in, that get a bigger role and they continue to win no problem. So, the core guys on that team, Kucherov, Point, Stamkos, and Hedman, and obviously you can't forget to mention Vasilevsky. They'll still be fine. I think losing Platt, he's been there for a very long time. He's definitely a team leader, very clutch in the playoffs as well. But I do think that they'll find guys. Whether it's giving Ross Colton more time or Nemestikov steps in as a free agent signing, these guys will take advantage of their opportunities, I think. And while they may not produce to the level Ondrej Palat did, they'll produce well enough to where I think the Lightning are still going to be very good for the next few years, and they'll continue winning. And I think they will be in the mix. Very high in the Atlantic Division, at least. Maybe not winning it. They didn't win it this year. They finished third, but you know what? They still went to the Stanley Cup Finals and beat 2 Atlantic teams on the way to it. So, I mean, the Lightning are just well run. They always have been for years. With Steve Yzerman was there, and then the job that Breezeball has done taking over from Yzerman, they're just fantastic with what they do. And Palat, he scored 49 points in 77 games played last year, 18 goals, 31 assists, and was a plus 15, 5 game winning goals. It's a decent player. I'm not going to say it's not easy. I think Palat is a very good player, especially in the playoffs. But, I think the core guys on that team are still there for them. So I think they'll be fine. On the other side of it, for the New Jersey Devils, a team that has been in a rebuild for basically, half my life, it seems like. I mean, they went to that finals in 2012, lost to the Kings, and ever since then, I mean, they just never even come close to that level again. And they have a boatload of cap space, as you can see right here, just a little under 13 million in cap space. They could very easily afford to give Palat the contract that he did, $6 million. They were even in on Johnny Gaudreau, I heard, but unfortunately for them, they did miss out on that. He did go to the Columbus Blue Jackets, which I already discussed. So they do have some good players on this team, even though they're not very good. Jack Hughes, former number 1 overall pick, making $8 million. He's locked up for the foreseeable future. Nico Hischier, he doesn't have, the flashy 90, 100-point season, but what he does, he scored 60 points last year. His main strength, he is incredible defenseman. I mean, this is a guy that I think has Selke, finalist potential. He's just absolutely fantastic two-way forward, great on the defensive side, and I think any points he chips in is just a bonus. And 61 points last year for Hischier, not a low mark by any means. If he can continue adding to that a bit and maybe get up to 65, 70 with the defense he has, that's a great player as well. Another former number one overall pick as well, taken ahead of Nolan Patrick in that draft. A draft pick that did not work out well for the Philadelphia Flyers, to say the least. But Platt, like I said, $6 million for the next 5 years. They have a ton of free agents coming up, so it's good that they do have almost $13 million in cap space. Thomas Tatar, Andreas Janssen, Eric Halla, and Yegor Sharangovich. That's a mouthful right there. Michael McLeod as well are all up after this season. And other than that, they have some RFAs this year: Jesper Boqvist, Jesper Bratt, and Miles Wood. Decent players. I think all those players are kind of, third liners, top nine forward kind of level guys. So I don't think they'll demand too much, but, I think especially Wood and Brad are pretty decent depth guys. So they would hope to re sign them relatively soon. On the defensive side, let's see. Let me check their dead cap real quick. Corey Schneider. I was looking to see PK Subban, but I don't see him anywhere on here. I'm not sure what exactly that's about. Dougie Hamilton, no movement clause, $9 million for the next 6-7 years, whatever it is. Definitely an overpay. I think Hamilton's a decent defenseman, but he is 29, and that is a very lengthy contract extension. Let me just check something real quick. I know Subban's not on the team anymore, but I thought they might have some dead cap or something to pay to him, but apparently not. That's great for them, because that was an absolutely horrific contract that he had. John Marino, $4.4 million for the next 5 years. They do have some free agents coming up next year: Severson, Ryan Graves, and Jonas Siegenthaler. Severson, I definitely think, is the best of those three and the one they need to lock up the most. Graves was good on Colorado, but he was also playing on a phenomenal defensive core. So, there's always the question: was he just great because of the system, or is he actually, a great player? And I think he's a decent player, but not quite as fantastic as he looked on Colorado. I mean, I remember he was a plus 40 once when he was on Colorado. He fit perfectly in that defensive core, but now on a team where you don't quite have the level of support around you like you did on Colorado, I don't think he'll really come close to those type of numbers again. They do have question marks in goal as well. They just recently made a move for Vitek Vanacek from the Washington Capitals. He's an RFA. They traded for his rights. I would expect him to be signed relatively soon. And Mackenzie Blackwood has been their starter the past few years. He's very strange to me because there are moments where I think he looks absolutely phenomenal. And then there are other moments where I just don't even know what he's doing. I think he's incredibly talented, and the potential is there for him to be a very good goaltender. He just needs to harness it a bit more, be more consistent. They do also have Jonathan Bernier, another goalie, on injured reserve, currently making over $4 million. So honestly, I think the main thing for the Devils is that PK Subban's contract is finally off the books, because that really hurt their cap for the longest time. And they have enough cap space to give Ondrej Palat a decent contract, and they still have plenty of room to give even more if they did want to. So Subban's contract finally running out is great for them, I think. So for the Devils, they're still a long ways away. Their team is not very good at all. They had a number 1-2 pick this year and got a defenseman, Simon Nemec. So we'll see how that works out for them. Bit of a questionable pick, I think, considering some of the guys were still on the board. Logan Cooley and Shane Wright, the consensus top two, was still there. They went with the defenseman. They did also just trade today Ty Smith to my Pittsburgh Penguins and got, I believe it was John Marino in return. So we'll see if that works out for them. But for the Devils, no end in sight for the rebuild, I still think, especially in the Metro, which is so top heavy with teams like the Hurricanes, the Rangers. Unfortunately, I think the Penguins will probably still make the playoffs this year, even though I think they'll get smacked if they do. And the Capitals, it's just tough, man. That's 4 teams right there. And then the Atlantic's tough as well. So I do not think the Devils will be even close to making the playoffs this year, with or without Palat. I think it's a interesting contract. We'll see how it looks a few years down the road when Palat's approaching his mid-30s, still making $6 million. But for right now, I mean, they have the cap to spend, and Tampa Bay did not. So I think it's a move that makes sense for both sides. So once again, this has been me, Noah Dibler. crew member of the Review and Preview brand, doing another NHL offseason video. I will be back very soon with another one because there were a crap ton of signings, and there is also a recent retirement I want to talk about as well. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.